Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and today we're discussing chapters 51 through 53.
But before we get into all of that, perhaps you'd like to know about what we talked about previously on Wizard Team. So, of course, we have Bree with her grandma in her head. And as we come back from the attack by Dead Davis in his study, Bree is in need of an ancestor's healing powers, which she's able to tap into via her grandmother. They heal Alice, and which also helps retrieve her memories that were taken from her by the evil King's Mage, Isaac. Bree finally tells Alice what's going on. Full story, no holds barred. Alice is down, as she is, and Bree and Alice both sneak to the lodge to warn the Legendborn. And we talk about how interesting it is that Bree is ready to sneak in this time, but she was all bold and bad when she really needed to be sneaking when she was trying to catch up with Nick. Hilarious times. Big main character energy. Things have become chaotic at the lodge. There's demons everywhere around campus, and Legendborn are hurt in the infirmary with William, and also so badly disorganized because of the chaos that the only person left out in the field fighting is Cell. Always coming down with a short end of the straw. It's so bad for Cell. Bree fills everyone in on what Dead Davis is doing, how he's a gate opener, and instead of everyone being verklempt and totally disbelieving her and then going in uproar, they actually believe her because this man is sus. They go to find him and Nick in the caves, and they unfurl and reveal that there is a way to get into the caves from their location in the lodge in a tunnel system. They are everyone who's on board, including Tor, who was laid out, and Sar, who popped in last minute trying to take over from Felicity, and Felicity's not playing that. Everyone's on board with hopping into this tunnel of misery and chaos, and trying to stop Nick from being called by someone, Arthur, they think, and retrieve Excalibur. And that's what happened last time on Wizard Team.
Legendborn! Doesn't hit anything.
I can't make it sound Glee. It's such a great sound.
Okay, so we are now in chapter 51. And Bree, Evan, and Fitz are taking the tunnel furthest to the right, and it smells like rotten things. Bree mentions that everyone else has already claimed a tunnel, so that's where they end up. Fitz is in the lead, Evan is in the middle, and Bree is in the back. And I'm like, this is wonderful because Evan is a demon. Spoiler. But if Evan wasn't a demon, this is terrible. Because why is Bree in the back?
The least experienced. They're the people who the people who are experienced should be in the front and flank. Yeah, the person who's new needs to be in the middle. We never do that. No.
And she doesn't have as much protection. She doesn't have ether armor. She's just got a sword.
Not bound. She's not bound to Nick yet. No, she's not open.
And Evan are awakened. Bree is not bound. She's not. She hasn't been tied to Nick. Nick is not awake either. So, and she needed Vaughn's ass to tell her not to pick up the staff and to get a sword, which she then later is like, thank God he told me that because the sword wouldn't even fit in this tunnel. Or the staff wouldn't even fit in this tunnel. She's carrying a weapon that she's not, mastered.
She's just on adrenaline and vibes, bro. She's been on this whole time, and
if we didn't know,
she's gotten pretty far with it, but
if we didn't know,
nobody knows
before, we know now because he is okay with Bree having his back,
having his back. Yeah, he doesn't care.
Nobody knows that she actually has her mage flame. So it's like they really are sitting out here making plans. Like for me, why is Fitz? I guess because he knows that Evan's at his back. I'm like, why didn't Fitz be like, yo, no, she needs to be in the middle as the
leader or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like they saw her luck out in like 2 combat trials and like lose well, but she lost one of them, but lost well, and they were like, yeah, she got our back. Like, what?
I mean, to be fair, she did like win when she needed to. Vaughn's but can't get out of the ring. He just, So you know what I'm saying? Like I can get having some belief in her competence, but like that is overly like, that's too much.
I'm not saying that she is like helpless, useless. But I am saying that would not have been my choice. That's not the order that I would want going into a tunnel where we know a dude is opening gates and demons abound. You know?
But also they're also trained, they've been trained in combat training since they were like 9. So like how do you not know how to build a formation?
Right.
Like everyone should be on Beyonce like in formation.
I mean,
like,
I know, and I only know because I read a lot of fantasy books. I ain't never been in a formation, never will be. God willing, knock on wood. Like, but if it happened, I would be like, well, in my many years of reading fantasy, I should probably be in the middle. So then they start discussing like what would happen if they do run into demons. More Evan asked, like, do you really think that Davis would release these demons in here, and like what would that be like? And Fitz, who is awakened and has some level of like, he's Boars, I believe. So like he's lower in the line. He's been awake for a while. He's fought his fair share of demons. It's like, it's a tactical nightmare. It's close quarters. There's no exits. There's no like relief to like, if you find yourself overwhelmed, like there's no way to run. But no one said that Davis was smart. They just, gave him power. So.
And he's also very like short-sighted. Yes. Like he's definitely thinking about himself, and that's pretty much it. And like, yeah, he was able to kind of like,
finesse,
create this plot and like figure out these particular machinations, but he didn't think about all the demons that were gonna come through. And like, yeah, all those demons are gonna come through and they're gonna like potentially awaken Nick, but they're also going to attack hella people. So then like you're going to be in danger. Like what's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's
going on? He also doesn't really care. I think he believes a lot in his own, like he'll be fine. And so that's all. And that like Nick has enough just natural whatever. I don't know. It's the confidence of a mediocre white man. Yeah, for sure.
He thought Arthur was going to come through, save the day, because Arthur's Arthur. But I also think it's interesting. But he also is like overprotected. Like he just is used to having a King's Mage at his side, so he just is never fully. You would think after having your back broke incorrectly by a demon, you would look at them a little bit differently, like consider more things. But that's not part of his repertoire, thinking that hard. And I think part of the reason why he has this false confidence in his abilities is because the way that he was able to get away with a plot and scheming over everyone in the order for like 25 years or whatever. But then he's like not actually considering the fact that like he's getting over on people who are like was in a system that allows him to get over. It's not like he's like actually being like considered and someone is actually trying to like measure and count and weigh him. It's like literally on some like they're all geared towards letting you do whatever anyway. So if they actually were going to be people who held you accountable, it would be in a whole different place. You probably wouldn't even have gotten this far. But because you are who you are in this order that is the BS that it is, you've gotten away and now you feel like you're smart. But you're not. Because if you actually, like, imagine Davis going across like a Sherlock Holmes. Like, he wouldn't have made it. Like, he would have never got this far.
Sherlock would have been like, this is boring. Did you guys watch like Knives Out? Glass Onion, when he was like, no, it's not brilliant. It's just fucking dumb. Like
it is dumb,
right? Like it's successful because it's so stupid.
Yes.
And no one
Right.
can believe how stupid it is.
It's like because
Right.
everyone around would then have to consider how stupid they are for letting him be stupid.
Yeah.
It's like I was
Mhm.
stupid because I thought he was smart. Like that's the thinking of it. And I just it's so dead of him. And I'm glad Glass Onion exists as an example because we can definitely point to like this is him.
Yeah.
This is the
Right.
man's.
This is who
And he
does.
definitely has the like ego of like thinking he's way more smart
Brilliant.
than he
Yeah.
is.
So they are just in this dark tunnel. They're using their flashlights, like they're pointed down. But Bree talks about how dark it is and they can't really see. And they reach this ravine. And I swear I read this like numerous times and I still really couldn't picture it. So I'm gonna read it here. And then hopefully y'all can explain this to me. The tunnel opens up completely on one side, turning a narrow passageway into a path with only one wall on our left, which I get. And then on the right, dropping down into terrifying blackness, is a ravine about 30 feet across. Fitz's flashlight shows us the other wall, a series of massive, jagged outcrops reaching towards us like giant molars with sharp edges. When he and Evan point their beams down, we see that the ravine narrows as it drops, with stalagmites rising up from the unseen floor with shadows that swallow our light. So what I'm picturing is they're in this tunnel, but then she says the path ahead is still about 4 feet across. But everything about it seems more treacherous. So when I'm thinking, okay, so they're in this tunnel, they make this turn, and then there's like a cliff. So they can only go on this little bit of like space because of this cliff. But then she says it's still about 4 feet across. Is that 4 feet of like usable
The
space?
path is 4 feet across.
Oh, so like the trail.
Okay.
She's
Okay,
drawing,
so, like,
y'all. It's
hold
it is a podcast, and she is over here making a map.
It's fine. I'll post it on our socials.
Shout out
I need
to
y'all to-
Bayana, who loves a map. She said, "Ooh."
She's like, I will take up this challenge to draw.
That's kind of what it
to
looks
visualize. Okay, but
like. It's like that's the path. So they're coming. There's the tunnel, right, or the secret tunnel. They're going. Well, you can't.
Secret tunnel.
Anyway. And then it opens, and they have like these 4 feet, and then all of that drops. Well, I'm doing this backwards. It's very difficult. It drops, and then it's very sharp here, and then all the way on the other side, the wall is like jagged and stuff.
You might say it's a jagged edge.
Was just as, but But yeah, but the tunnel itself was this small thing, and then suddenly you're like, ooh, I have nothing there.
My question, so here's, I appreciate your visualizations. My question was, when we get into the like action part of it, I was confused about like where they were within the tunnel for the stalagmites to not be a problem for them while they're like kind of like trying to like hug the wall. Like I'm like
so their wall that they're on is smooth. And then the one that they can hug is smooth. It's the one on the far side of the ravine that's like.
And then there's
I got that. It was that the fact of like when they get attacked, and we're not there yet. Yeah. When they get attacked, everything seems like it gets scrambled, and like I'm like, how is she able to continue on a path with the stalagmites like right there?
I think that she's like they're grappling with that, and they're trying not to like fall and stuff. I think we'll get there, but. Yeah. That part.
That's where I got confused visually. That's where I got confused.
And I kind of thought that, but
brilliant.
I guess I got confused between path and like what I would call like a trail. So, but yeah, so the path is about 4 feet, and that's the amount of space that they have, walkable space that they have. So I was thinking the tunnel was like 4 feet. So then I was like, how does this work? So. They are hugging against the wall, and then they run into hell bats, is what we think they are, or just bats. Like what is that? And then Fitz is like, "What's that noise?"
It's giving Zubat. Like, actually, it's giving Golbat.
And then
Pokemon.
Bree's like, "That ain't no bat, y'all." And then all of a sudden, we're fighting in this tunnel of death. They're not bats. They are imps. They are in the dark. They can hardly see what they're fighting or each other. And then Fitz drops his flashlight into the ravine. Bree is cutting her flashlight against the wall. Fitz groans, trying to like get back up on his feet. And then his flashlight must have landed on an outcrop, but the angle makes a wide beam of light hitting the wall and the path ahead. So it becomes kind of like a spotlighty type of like thing where they can then, because of how it lands, they can see better their surroundings, which is like fiction, plot. How lovely. As opposed to like, you know.
Great, because we would imagine it being all dark. It would turn into a horror show real quick.
You know, but
not that it's not already like terrifying.
I wanted to say this, and like we'll get like as we go throughout the episode, we'll get there. This whole section of chapters is very much horror. Like there's a whole horror genre happening throughout these like few chapters.
And I'm sick of and
I will say,
scare me. I mean.
Well, I'll say that I think that I appreciate, like, it's part of the reason why I keep wanting to, like, I don't know if we've talked about it, like, on the podcast, or if it was just, like, the three of us were talking, where I get, like, FOMO with, like, some of the new horror stories coming out, because I'm just, like, it seems like a cool story, but I'm also a weenie, and I won't sleep if I read this or watch it or whatever. But I do appreciate, like, horror tropes and stuff in fantasy.
Yeah.
Usually I think it doesn't scare me as much, but I can appreciate the like beats of it, I guess, if that makes sense.
I think it's also because for me it's like it's a section and then it's over. And like you get to like come down and like be, and there's not like like I feel like with horror, or even for me in thrillers, because I'm that much of a weenie that to me thrillers are horror. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't like them either. I'm anxious enough. Yeah. I don't need this like false anxiety thrust upon me. But with those like stories and things, whether it's a movie, book, whatever, the release point, you always know that it's gonna turn back around, right? It's kind of like a roller coaster, right? Where you hit that, you go up the thing, and there's all of that anxiety because you know the drop is coming, and then you drop, and then there's that moment where you smooth out. But if you're at like Magic Mountain or something where those fucking roller coasters are the works of demons, there's another one coming. Like you really like, and so like you're like, oh yeah, woo, but you know that it's not over. Like as long as you're on the ride, terrifying shit is going to happen. I feel like in fantasy and stuff like that, it's like you hit that like dip and you smooth out, and then you can stay smoothed out. And like there's other shit that will, you know, pop up and happen, but it won't be horror. You know, that's just like one scene or whatever, or like a few scenes and then over. So I think maybe that's it. That might be it for me. Because for me, like the anticipation is just as bad. I'm the person that Wikipedia is the show that they're watching while they're watching it. Drives my cousins crazy, but I'll be like, please spoil. Spoil now.
Sometimes it depends. Yeah, it's weird because I do like horror and I do like suspense, but if you're playing with my emotions too hard, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go on and look that up, bro. Just go on and tell you what's happening, because how long am I going to be in this prolonged state of suspense? I can take I can take a somewhat prolonged. I'm not a girl. I don't like slow burn, so I don't like when stuff like it doesn't matter if it's romance or whatever. I don't like a slow build to anything. Like give me a payoff, give me another shoulder, and then give me a payoff. Like don't play with me like that. I don't need to keep waiting for the payoff. Give it to me now. Give it to me. Give me a slight amount. Like give me like 2 more minutes and then break it, because I can't hold the suspense for too long.
Yeah, I can't even. You better than me. So they're like Bree is describing this fight, and I just think about like just like random screaming, and chaos, and like the lights kind of like a literal horror film, right? And so they figure out that they're imps, But like Bree's got her light and she's kind of going back and forth, but also trying to like fight. And then I think at one point she drops her light, her flashlight. There's all of these sounds. So it says that like Fitz manages to drive his blade into the body of an imp, and there's this squelching wet sound. And then it like the silver of his blade pops out of his neck. Like there's all of this like just like so light and sound and senses, right? And then Grandma screams. She just turns into a straight, she goes full church lady. And she is like, demons, protect my grandchild. Lord, oh please, the Lord is my, she starts praying. And I feel real bad because Bree's like, not now, Grandma. But like, her grandma's praying for her, but also, not now. I'm fighting.
Not screaming in her head. It's like, it's not helpful. The prayers in this case might make it worse.
A quiet prayer, please.
Like, I need to focus. If I want to, look, God will help if I can focus.
If I can
can't
focus.
focus.
So I just imagine, so Bree says that she shoves Grandma Charles into an empty room in her mental house and locks the door tight. And I just imagine her, like, I think because we've been on Doctor Who time this weekend or whatever, imagine her shoving her in a closet, like not now Hitler, when they shove Hitler in the closet in Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah.
But like, it not being Hitler, it being your grandmother. I'm thinking about like,
just like, get in the closet. I need
like, you be safe.
But also, she's getting a better handle on like that part of her powers.
Yeah.
Like just on being a medium and how to like
yeah, like she stumbles
like
a little bit,
like
but she
compartmentalize,
very quickly is like, okay, we gotta lock this down because I need to focus.
Right. But also like knowing that she's not sending her away completely.
Yeah.
She's just like, okay, I need you to go in the other room. You could pray over there, but I just need
time out. You need a timeout corner. This is your here.
Yeah.
Over there.
It's too loud. It's distracting me. So I also think like this is like we said, like it's like a horror movie, and then there's just like comedy. Like I just like the Lord is my shepherd is crazy. Like,
but that's good horror. Good horror gives you relief moments where you like you're laughing, and then you're right back into the horror, and then you're laughing, and then you're like, oh crap! Like that's good horror.
Yeah, but I just was like, ooh, Medea, not Tyler Perry's Medea, like Soul Food.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
I know
okay.
what you mean.
Just
Big Mama.
Thank you, just for the listeners at home. So then Fitz kill Fitz. He is no longer. He is literally lifted up in the air and then dropped on a stalagmite. There is just a shard of earth sticking out of him. And I'm wondering, like, what does this mean for his night? Because I know that they were saying, like, if you can kill the night before they awaken, you might. I don't know what. There's something about Camland, and like I know that it's like specific to Arthur.
It's only specific.
If you kill Arthur, then all the lines.
Okay, so it's
die.
only specific to Arthur.
But if you kill one line, if you kill like so
there's
for
9 other
Fitz,
people who got trained
so
to pick up behind you.
Awakened right away is what I'm wondering though.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's his brother or something. They mention it in Bloodmarked. Where like, which also feels like a shitty way to find out your brother died. It's like you immediately become awakened.
Yeah.
Like that actually
Can
is
you
really
imagine?
for a lot of
traumatic.
Can you imagine?
That's very traumatic.
Like you just like laying, like you're laying down
you're
somewhere,
chilling.
and all of a sudden, someone's in your head, and you're like, "Wait a minute, this is my brother.
You belong in my brother." Oh shit! Well, oh,
right. It's like not only the like responsibility of now being the awakened scion or whatever, but also like it means literally that your brother just died. Or whoever, like, but a close family member, in this case, brother. But that's
this whole this
so
order
sorry.
is so
sorry
traumatic for no
Fitz.
reason.
It's really
Who told y'all that this was the way?
It's very out of pocket. I will also say it's very clear, like, so you have Evan, the fake Evan. So at first I was trying to remember, like, and he explains it because he goes into a villain explain in the next chapter,
yeah.
but like how, because we see in Bloodmarked like the effects of losing your like either scion or squire, like whoever your bonded pair is or whatever. We see the effects of that and how it's like, again, these oaths and these bonds are more than just like regular relationships.
There's magic involved.
There's all this other stuff involved, and so but like this is the first time we see it, except because Evan is a demon, like he looks shocked. Obviously he's like acting, but he seems shocked, but he's not actually like distraught, or like it's not like he's lost a piece of himself or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not the
I think
reaction
also
you see
because this is the first time
pairs. Like you've seen other pairs whenever they have something disastrous happen, like Star was like, it should have been me. You don't have the same reaction.
Exactly. He's not even like, he's not having a meltdown or anything. He's like, oh no, I can't believe that happened type thing, but he's not like actually
distraught
unable to continue do anything else. Yeah. And like obviously this is the first time we've seen somebody die, like a scion die. So it doesn't completely tip you off because we don't yet know what that looks like, but it's still a clue that like this isn't really dude.
Yeah. So he's like, evidence like, oh my god, I can't believe it, he's gone, he's sad. And then does he say like Bree says like her brain shuts down, she's trying to process, and then Evan is just like whispering or repeating, stunned, he's gone, and then like Evan's armor, Fitz's like armor and ether casting, sword and stuff disappear, but then so does Evan's, because Evan no longer has like he's no longer tied to board.
Yeah.
And so there's also this like visual like I kind of feel like there's like when someone dies or something traumatic happens, right? Even if you're like seeing it, like there's a part of your brain that's like unable to accept it, but then this like secondary visual is happening that's like kind of like solidifying or like confirming like, no, he's actually gone, like there's no saving him, he's not like critically injured, like he is no longer,
right. And also these like, and you know, obviously we've seen other injuries, like people have been getting hurt in very extreme ways this whole book, and like, you know, obviously they have William and then they're good in like 2 days or whatever, but it's a very like graphic type of death, right? It's not like you know what I mean, like it's not like, oh, he just fell and he disappeared into the darkness. Like, no, this man got impaled.
Yeah, and you were looking
you can still see that
there's blood everywhere.
Like,
yeah, and it didn't just like sustain itself only on what he fell on, like it gushed out. So it's like it's a bloody scene is what they like what it says, and it's like that is traumatic, and you are not able to process it because you're trying to get away from the thing that made it happen in the first place.
Right.
And so then Bree says, Davis opened a gate. He may not have killed my mother, but he did murder Fitz. No more deaths. And that's where chapter 51 ends. And I just got to say, Bayana, get your people.
And also,
get your man.
Who's my mans?
Your Davises. Like, get the Davis clan together. Child,
no, absolutely not.
How dare?
If anything, he's definitely not my mans. He's definitely not my man's.
Get your people. That's what I'm saying.
He's not my people. Yeah. Also, her saying no more deaths, and then knowing what happens immediately after this, I really hate this for her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also just like, I was just like, sure, Jan, like you can tell yourself that, but
like, how are you gonna make sure that happens? Yeah. Like, what are you promising to yourself? Like, you're gonna jump? Are you gonna jump in front of every impending death you see? Like, how are we gonna make that happen?
Yeah, it's just like
good intentions.
I appreciate the intention, and she's gonna do her best ish. I mean, she's gonna do her best. Her best is just not very much, I guess, is probably the way to say it.
Again,
And also,
she just got here. She can't.
It's just too much happening.
She doesn't know how
She got here, but it's also none of this is her
Yeah.
fault. So, but it's still no more deaths was tell yourself that to make
It's
you to help you
ambitious.
step forward. You gotta keep going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you can't just stop there. So yeah, sure, no more deaths.
It's kind of like a self-soothing technique. It sounds like it's like you just witnessed this really big traumatic death, and you're like, you know what? I will process this later. I will have time to fully sit with this one very traumatic death, and there won't be any more to process. It'll just be this one, because nothing can be as ghastly as this. And I'll process it then.
No more deaths.
Woo, well. Wizard Team is back for a new season, and with that comes a few changes. The one we're most excited about, other than reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, is that the Patreon chat is back. Support our work by becoming a B&C baddie at any tier, and you'll be able to watch us record live weekly, have your thoughts included on the podcast, and interact with other baddies. Go to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate to join. All right, chapter 52. So now Bree is alone with fake Evan and is leading the way. So her back is to this.
I was reading this and I was like, no, girl, what is she doing?
What are you doing?
Again, like, it was wrong for you to be in the back the first time, but it's not any better to be in the front now. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
No.
But it's bad idea. So they're kind of talking, and there's a mention of how ether is richest close to Earth, which is like something that's kind of it hasn't been said in that way, but was kind of a conversation that Bree had with Patricia when they were in the graveyard too, and kind of like, goes back to why, I think in part, like why the dead have such like a better grasp of ether, you know what I mean? Or like why you're able to like go to their graves to ask for ether. But it does mean that the Shadowborn are stronger underground than above ground. So that's fun. Lord Davis just because
the audacity,
he just didn't think all this through.
Idiot
I mean, and maybe
scandalous.
he did and he just doesn't give a fuck, but like dude,
I really do.
You're gonna do all this, but then you lose all of your scions.
Then what?
And then what?
Because he thinks they're replaceable.
It's just
he's Beyonce. He's selling them all to the left, because Arthur's the only one who's irreplaceable. Everyone else dispensable. Sure. Goodbye.
Yeah. So they keep going in the tunnel. They find like they're in a section that's kind of like crumbled, so there's a lot of like big rocks that they have to climb over. So Bree again is leading the way, and as she's doing that, she suddenly realizes that Evan's feet aren't making a sound. And so this is the moment where she's like, oh shit, like all of the things that she's heard about demons from Cell in particular is coming back to her, and suddenly she realizes like, oh, this is I don't remember how they pronounce this. Goruchel? I don't know.
Goracle? Is it because
Goracle? Maybe Goracle.
Because
but even that, we're definitely not saying it correctly. But we're doing what we can. And so she tries to pretend like she doesn't notice, like she still thinks that like this is still Evan, but she's also not a good actress.
Awful.
And so
awful.
Dude immediately is like, oh, you're too smart for your own good. Which, so then Bree tries to run. She twists her ankle and drops her flashlight. So we're just in full on
damsel.
What is it?
Horror movie trope.
Horror movie, yeah, horror movie trope. But we're also still in a fantasy story, so that means that fake Evan, whose name is really Raz, takes this moment to villain-splain. And love that for him. Love that for us. Get the full picture. So first he thanks Bree for leading him into the tunnels. And then he's also like, I guess I gotta thank Davis too. They weren't working together, but him going around opening all the gates made things easier for Raz because he didn't have to open nearly as many gates. Though he does admit to being the person or the one who sicked the Hell Foxes on Cell and Bree back during the second trial.
Also, so Dud Davis being sneaky made him, like, while he thought he was being clever, he was also not clever enough to notice that more gates were opening than were normal outside of him.
Well, I think that maybe part of it is that I think gates do open on their own, or you know what I mean. So but maybe he's just thinking that those are like
even on our usual like appearance rate, but outside of him, like he knew which ones.
But I'm saying maybe it was maybe those are the normal appearance rate.
Yeah,
I don't think because they don't have to open hella gates. In like it's like maybe he said he only had to do like 2 or 3, so it's like maybe that's the normal rate. And then Davis is just open them willy-nilly and he's like, okay, I guess those are just the regular ones. Or, he's not
paying attention.
He's not paying attention.
He's not that clever.
And he's letting more demons in, and presumably those demons could
open gates.
Open more gates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he was probably counting on it.
Because honestly. You don't, like, the thing with the Gorachel, is when you're opening gates, you don't know if Gorachels are coming through. Like, it's a numbers game, right? So there are more E-Chels? Is that the ones that are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the Hellhounds and the...
Yeah. And then even the smaller ones that that Bree first saw at the quarry. There's far more of those coming through, but they're also easier to spot and stuff. But a Gorachel could easily slip through. And then that's just I think for Davis, that's just a risk he's willing to take. It could only really help him in the end, so he doesn't really care. Yeah, he's the more the better. For sure.
He's calling him out to his party, like the flyer. So then he's talking about, it's just really wild because he's very menacing, obviously, but then he's and he's also very callous, I guess is probably the better word to say. So he goes, did you know the real Evan Cooper played the banjo? Do you have any idea how hard it is to learn to play the banjo? He's expecting Bree to
sympathize
him. Yeah. Sorry, dude. What do you mean? So then he talks about how he took the warrior's oath to Fitz. So that was also one of my questions too, is how was he able to have the ether armor and all that stuff? But he had killed Evan way before they were bonded, before Fitz was awakened. So he really was an awakened squire, and also means that Bree has only known this fake Evan. She doesn't know other dude. And presumably, he was trying to mimic the real Evan as much as possible, and no one noticed that there was anything wrong with him, or anything different about him. Which maybe they need some passwords or something. But
you would think that knowing that Gorachels exist would inspire some level of spy intelligence defense or something.
Seriously,
within the order, especially with younger people. So it's okay, this is just the minimum security standards, because we just don't know at any point when you can get infiltrated, and we know that we only have one King's Mage, Merlin, to cover the whole entire area.
But I think that that's also part of the arrogance of it, though.
He was right. He was
wrong. Yeah, Sal was definitely right.
He was right.
But it's also part of the arrogance of it, right? We have all these things in place. The gates have we haven't had Camlan in over 200 years. We're good. We have all of these things. If anything slips through the cracks, we can grab them and imprison them or dissect them or whatever. So they're not, and they probably haven't seen the Gorachels or whatever in a while. So it's like it is plausible to me, even if it's silly that they don't have that as like a thing.
But it's also the mediocrity of it all.
It's also
because
like,
it's like
Yeah.
why would you with you knowing that it's been so many years since like you've heard about Morgaine trying to do anything, like you should be on edge. You should be like, oh, they might try to strike us while we are like overly confident or like because we haven't seen, you know, like you should be doing counter. Like Cell was right in his paranoia to be like they're gonna try to take advantage of us. Like they're gonna try to take advantage of this situation. And I wonder if he ever brought it up during like Merlin meetings, if they have those, and they were just like, be quiet. So like
Whatever, dude.
you're young, you just expect for there to be danger around every corner because you're just like hyper focused on like danger. And it's like, no, like if you think strategically, the best time to take advantage of something is whenever no one's expecting it.
I mean, but also their head Merlin is a I was gonna say their head Merlin is a demon also. So that's also probably why.
Yeah. That's true. I was gonna say, like, there's also a level of like Roz is actually a very good Gorachel and very lucky. Like, how many Gorachels actually are able to infiltrate the order, right? So there's like an arrogance that I think is obviously at play here, but also like even with Cell, like they're looking for people, or they're looking for Gorachels who are outside of the order, and so that's why Bree was such a like good target for Cell, because she's trying to infiltrate, but she's not actually already in the order, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that like a Gorachel is smart or savvy enough to kill someone in the order is like unheard of to them, because of like they're so arrogant. Like they think that like anyone in the order would never get caught up or get killed.
I feel like the arrogance is more on, because when we're reading like earlier chapters in the book, the arrogance more lies in that they don't think that demons are intelligent enough to be able to infiltrate or create plans. And so they're like, oh, like how are demons able to communicate and like come together on a 3-pronged defense? Like this is unusual behavior. And it's like, or perhaps y'all have sat here and thought that y'all were superior for no good reason outside of y'all are able to have power over systems and infiltrate with like these high bearing people, so that you never really have to notice when people run up against your stuff and do stuff right under your eyes, because that doesn't make any sense to you and how well your order works. It doesn't actually work that well. But great, sure, the demons don't know anything. They are unintelligent beings who should not be able to pull together a 3-pronged defense. Sure.
Which also then, like, if the demons are so dumb, you're not as impressed.
You're not.
Right. True.
You find a bunch of dummies and I'm supposed to be in awe of you? Okay.
Yeah.
That's white mediocrity right there. It's like, okay, but then when we break it down, I was talking to Darren about this the other day. I was like, about like big game hunting and how dumb
I hate
it is. But I'm like, if you think,
especially cats, I'm like, they are cats.
And if you think about it, the people who are like indigenous to Africa have been living on that land for eons and have learned how to live in harmony with these creatures. That is a bigger like achievement than being able to slowly over time limit their environment so much so that they're caged into a specific area, can't venture out too much, and then you just pop up, have someone sedate them enough for you to kill them with your high range gun. Like that is not make you a bigger capable person. The bigger capable people are the ones who are able to live on the land in coexistence and not be attacked on a regular basis. Those are the more advanced people. But they rewrite the script so the mediocrity is what's the winner and not the actual like taking stewardship of the relationship there. And I just and that's what I feel like this is the order big time. It's like just ugh.
My big thing with lion hunting, and then we can get back to it, it's just that like lion or any big cat hunting is they're cats, and so they are sleeping, sunbathing, they look at you and they don't see a threat, so they like go back to sleep They are not worried about you. And then they see a gun and they don't know what that is.
I mean, at this point they do.
At this point they do. But like, it's just not, it just doesn't, it's never seemed as impressive as people want to believe it is. I'm like, so you shot a sleeping cat with an AK-47? Ooh. Come at that motherfucker with a spear and then let's talk. You know?
Also from a long range with other people around you to sedate and treat them should there be any issues.
Let's see some hand-to-hand combat.
Let's see that.
And let's talk. That one crazy South African man, I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he raises lions, or he
Tiger King,
and they just be tackling him and playing with him. He like lives on like a wildlife reserve or whatever, but they be playing with that man like he a cat too. They just be tackling him. I'm like, yeah, do that shit, but not playfully, with some knowledge, and then come out on top, and I might be impressed. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, that concludes part 1 of our lion talk of this episode. So
lions and tigers and ether. Oh my.
So Raz continues his villain splaining, and he talks about how he's been waiting to kill Arthur this whole time. But that Arthur won't fully awaken until he takes up Excalibur. So this is like, he's basically wants to destroy the lines, and then is taking Bree hostage because of how Nick feels about her, which he realized at the gala when Nick, selected her as his squire. And then, we just saw in the last episode, like, how he was the one who was like, yeah, man, like, if anybody will resist the call for you, Bree.
Nick's in love.
Clearly explaining why he's like, I'm with her. I'm going with her in the tunnels because this is clearly the right move. He essentially wants to take Bree hostage to then force Nick to succumb to Arthur's call. And then he also mentions that he's working for his mistress Morgaine, which I didn't know there was an actual Morgaine. We just know about the line of Morgaine.
Yeah.
And we don't know if those...
Is she a demon?
She's a demon. Or maybe. We don't know.
Original Morgaine.
She could be a demon. She could be the original Merlin who dipped from the Order. She could have nothing to do with the line of Morgaine. We have no clue.
That's true.
And I feel like we still don't know, because I don't remember her coming up in Bloodmarked. So I
think we heard a couple of times about the line of Morgaine, but we didn't hear about her specifically.
But not about Morgaine specifically.
As far as I remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have noticed, because I actually, the only thing that I liked from reading about King Arthur prior to Legendborn was whenever they talked about the Lady in the Lake and Morgaine. Like, that was where I was like, ooh, woman doing villainy. I'm down. Let's see how that goes. So I paid a lot of attention to Morgaine stuff, and I was like, I don't see it here.
Yeah. It hasn't come up yet, but I'm very sure it will. We got 2 more books, so
Yay.
So then Bree is finally like, she's cornered. As he's talking and stuff, she is trying to fight back. But this is a demon.
And she also twisted her ankle.
She twisted her ankle. She's kind of, she's been trying to crawl away. It didn't really work. He's pulled her back, all this kind of stuff. But she's like finally cornered when Grandma Charles bursts through that door. She's like,
how dare you put me in a closet?
Grandma Charles is Beyonce with the water door. She's just like,
exactly. And then in that, like, as she returns, their powers flood into Bree. So then Bree kicks Raz into the ravine, and then that's where we left.
I feel like Bree, the description of Bree kicking him into the ravine is like somewhere between like on Real Housewives of Atlanta when whenever it was Cynthia who kicked Porshèa on the boat.
Oh yeah.
But also like in a video game where you like kind of like charge up your legs and then push. Like it's somewhere in between those two things. It's where I visualized Bree's reaction to him. But also a good meme to possibly pull.
Yeah, literally.
Cool. So, the final in this horror division episode sees Bree, chapter 53, sees Bree actually on the other side of where her grandmother directed her. Those 10 steps that she took actually leads her to stumble into the chaos in this, I guess, like it's like this actual section of the cave where everyone has been trying to like get to the actual goal of where to get to in this tunnel. As soon as she stumbles in, she sees the Legendborn that are remaining. So Felicity and Russ, Sar and Tor, Pete and Greer, Vaughn, even, who is not Legendborn, but he's there. They're all battling demons, and in the seeing them battle demons, you can see them showcasing their specific strengths. Like Tor and Star are very quick and are like zip around the room like streaks of silver ether. Felicity and Russ are on the floor and they're brawling, and Pete and Greer are back to back and are able to do that defensive like fighting. So I like that in like this description. It's like all the things that you've heard to be like the strengths of the Scions are displayed when they're actually in battle in the biggest battle of the book. Like it was like cool to me to see that. I like when action plays out that way.
I also feel
it's like when the Avengers assemble.
Yeah, I also mentioned like
in the circle.
early in the book, but this book is so like cinematic. And so like I really would love to see it like, I feel like a movie, but you know, whatever way we get it. I would love to see it visually, like on screen. Just for like especially these scenes in particular. Like it's so like just well blocked, I feel like, and you can kind of see everything that's happening among all the chaos. So
I forget who, but I think someone bought the rights. Don't mess with us.
Yeah, but you know.
Studios, because y'all be buying rights
not doing
anything. It's like not, yeah.
It's rude. I still want my Ravenswood TV show. Apparently, they ain't even cast nobody yet.
There are numerous N.K. Jemisin properties that have been
bought.
Yeah, I think all of hers have been bought. I want to see some earthbending.
That's a whole separate discussion. The wish list,
some Tauruses, because I still don't understand what that is.
Look forward to a wish list episode from us at some point. We will get there. In the midst of all this cinematic like display, this is also cinematic, is that there's like a small island where Nick and his father are, and Nick is like curled up, trying to resist a call from a Scion who Bree says is Arthur, but we know it's not. And so he's trying to resist this call in a little like curled up ball, and his dad, who definitely bit off more than he can chew once again. Where's Isaac? I do not know. Where is this anyways? And so he's like over here getting like, he's under the brunt from many freaking demons. And then
oh, you thought you were safe because you opened the gate,
right? Like, come on.
So, the audacity of this man. Anyways, so then this gold ritual that Bree thought she had dispatched comes through like you thought this was over. Just when you thought it was finished. Just when you thought I was done and like stick the fork in me, I was done. Guess what, baby? I'm right here. And how does he make his grand reappearance? By murdering Whitty. And sadly, because Bree is still like at the entrance of the area, you know, so he's the same place where the Gorge was coming in, she feels like she's the only one who's witnessing Whitty's death. And like it is like a gruesome death, and she's the only one who's able, and she just said in her head, no more. And
no the
first thing she sees before after getting an understanding of what's happening in this room is another death of someone she actually liked. And who liked her.
Hate to see it.
For a demon that she thought she gotten rid of. That she thought she helped get out of here. So now she's feeling a guilt on top of whatever she's already feeling.
Yikes.
And she mentions that Whitty's upper spine is kicked by the demon. And she sees like blood on his favorite camo jacket, and his jaw is open to the dirt. Like, it's very graphic. And now, so for me, like like the other areas of the horror were like very much like sneaking up on you horror, something's coming down on your face and clawing at you in the dark kind of horror. Like, and then now we're in like straight up just gore, left to right section of horror. And Raz is such a villain, comes in and points at Bree and says, "That was very mean of you, Bree. Look at what you did." And then 2 black ribs are protruding from his chest, oozing green blood down his t-shirt, but he doesn't seem bothered by it at all.
Ugh.
And then Bree, because she's in this like grief, anger portion of her brain, she starts running and screaming as an arrow of hate towards him, thinking, "I'll kill him, I'll rip him apart." And he tells her that unless she tells Nick to accept Arthur's call and take up the blade, that he's going to kill everyone in there. She says no. He hisses, "Have it your way," like Burger King. And then he darts forward and strikes the blade from her hand, and then tells the demons an order, and suddenly they all stop, which causes all the Legendborn to stop too. And then he does the hostage situation. He yells to Nick to take up the sword, and Bree says no, he will end all the lines. And so Nick continues to resist and says, "If you kill her, I will never touch the blade." And then Raz, again, classic villain move, says, "You must think I'm bluffing," and then disappears and reappears beside Russ, who he takes by the throat, lifts high, and pitches like a fastball towards a stone wall.
Jeez Louise. R.I.P. again. Three homies down.
Everyone watches.
See you at the crossroads.
And then Uncle Charles, y'all.
You said 3 homies down, and I just literally a 40 started pouring in my brain.
Literally.
And I'm so sorry. Let me add that to the list, though.
Mm-hmm. No, it's already on there.
In addition to the list,
we were here.
We're already at the crossroads. All right.
Then Russ is like as a pile on the floor, and notice again, everyone is witnessing this because he called all the other demons to stop, and so all anyone can do is watch what's happening next. So this means that Felicity is inconsolable, starts trying to get towards Russ, and it takes every Legendborn in that room to keep her from going towards Russ. Raz is not done. He takes Bree by the middle again, and he holds her hostage and says, "Let Arthur call you, Nick, or I'll snap her." And then who comes through? What is happening? Oh, yes. Raz gets a knife to the throat, courtesy of that boy, eagle shifting Selwyn Kane, who
he's an eagle owl.
Eagle owl. Flies like an eagle.
Forget. I still don't understand
the
what
metaphor
that is.
I'm trying to make is an eagle, because he flies like an eagle down into the sea, down into the room. I don't know how he and then shifts that quickly from eagle owl form into his form and throws the knife at that man's throat. Like, it's the man's talking and he has a knife in his throat the second after. That's how quick that boy someone is. Not playing.
I love that for everyone involved.
It is so
it's perfect.
Like you said, like very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like it's so good. It's so good.
Also, like, I forget all the time that Cell can shift into an owl. Like, Tracy when she was wilding in her stories a couple weeks ago, at one point she was posting about owls, and I was like, what does this have? Like, I just could not remember what it had to do with Legendborn until I read this, and I was like, oh yeah, duh.
Eagle owl.
I was so confused because I read it and I was like, oh, we've been able to do
know what? It makes sense because, like, how many times has he been surveilling Bree from a tree? Did he just like shift from his eagle owl form and just pop up as himself and start talking to her? Like, he'd been watching her as the owl, and he was like, let me just mess with her real quick while I'm here and let her know I was right here. Because he could have just been surveilling her as the eagle owl the whole time, and then occasionally he'll tell her that he's there. I feel like he's been like this for a while.
He's been doing it.
But is this the first time that we know that he could shift?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Because it's even Bree herself says, "Wait, he can shapeshift." Like she even is like, "Huh?"
I didn't catch that. I don't know why.
So didn't nobody tell me this boy
when did he say you could do this? Ain't nobody said you could be an owl. But also, of all of the birds, I don't like, me and birds don't get along. Of all of the birds, an owl is that's calm. That's goated.
Excuse me. Okay, so Cell is not just standing on his laurels. He hauls Raz up by his neck, and as he sees the blood dripping from the demon, he inspects the unmoving body. Seems like he's like fine with it, and then drops it back. The rest of the demons in there howl and snap, but because they don't have Raz to command them, they don't move. And the last command that they received from him was like, stop, right? So very cinematically, it's kind of like there's a slight lull moment, and in this lull, Felicity breaks free from everyone who's holding her back and runs towards Russ. But the problem is that this is something that Raz can use to his benefit, because dude still ain't dead. He's a demon. He's on straight demon time. Pops back up and he launches out of the moat and onto Cell's back. They roll over and over in the water, grunting and striking in a blur of limbs. And then he has his hands around Cell's throat, with Cell clenching and clawing at the demon's fingers for breath, kicking. Bree runs, but Tor and Sarah, because again they're fast, streak past her. But Raz is too fast, and he sees them approaching. He shoves Cell's head down. As his knee snaps up, there's crack and blood, and then Cell's body is limp as it sinks into the water. And then suddenly Nick's scream echoes, and the sound of agony is everywhere. He breathes under the weight of Arthur's call, and he's losing the battle. It says Arthur's call, but again, Science call. And Raz grins and says, "That's it, Nikki," because this is exactly what he wanted. And for me, this is a triangle time moment, because this whole time this Goruchel targeted Bree as Nick's motivation, yet it's when he took Cell out that Nick fully crumbles, because he was ready to hold it down whenever Bree was like, "Don't listen to him." When she was held hostage, she was like, "Don't listen to him. He's gonna take out the whole line." He was like, "I got it. Nah, he ain't gonna get me." He's like, "You hurt her. I definitely won't pick it up." But as soon as Cell is lying in a bloody puddle, Nick can't handle that.
He can't handle it.
He can't handle it.
True love. I really do hope that there's a triangle. I don't believe it just because I'm cynical or whatever, and I just, whatever it is, Tracy, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but whatever it is, just let Cell be happy and whole, and Bree be alive. That's not. I don't know if Bree. I've given up on Bree being happy and whole.
Damn. Damn.
But Cell can be happy and whole.
Unfortunate. I would hope.
I don't know how it's gonna work out, because I just feel like Bree got that old white man in her, and I feel like that's gonna be resolved, obviously. But I just think that you can't. I don't even think in 2 books she can heal fully from that bitch ass off Arthur and all the shit that he done put her through.
That's fair.
But alive and on the way to happy and whole, fine by me.
Well, like we said, Nick can't handle his
person
being in a heat in the water. So suddenly a Scion's voice booms forward from Nick's body, and Nick turns towards Excalibur, just as the Goruchel and Morgaine intended. And simultaneously, here comes Grandma Charles, and she says, "Oh, that girl, the elder that we've been searching for, she's here."
Ain't stopping me. These ain't stopping me.
That is the song that's playing as Vera pulls up, okay? And she's like, her name is Vera, and she's here, basically. And also what's happening at this moment is that Cell starts to get back up again. But even though Cell is up, Nick is still determined to pull this sword. But guess what's happening? Nothing. Because the sword ain't his. And the room occupants are all about to learn the truth. And Q Mori, because guess what? Nick is not the king. He is not.
Ben Davis is running around. He's sprinting around the cavern. Cameras follow. He's like, no.
Arthur said, Arthur, you are not Nick's side.
Oh, no.
And
oof, what a mess.
Literally, all that Davis can do is gag. He's literally gagging. He's like, he's literally gagging.
Bro.
As Nick cannot take out the sword. So what's also happening in this moment, what happens next, is that Bree feels the world come apart. And I'm sorry I keep talking about Beyonce, but I don't care. World stop.
Oh, no. I wrote the same thing in my notes.
World stop. And then carry on as Bree is able to talk to Vera and shares with her that what she wants most to happen is for her mother's death to count and matter as much as her life did. And an answer to Vera's question about what do you want to know and why. And so when Vera shows Bree says she can feel her appraisal and pleasure, Vera answers, then I will give you the power to do so, one tight with truth. And then she pulls Bree into her memories, and Vera feels like, and Bree feels like she shatters. And that's the end.
Oof. That's the end.
Oof.
Wild. Next chapter is about to be
that baby's
crazy. And I don't think it's going to be that long, but it's going to be crazy. Because, like,
no,
I know
it's what we've been building up to. It's the climax that we've been building up to for so long.
When I finished reading for like recording, I was like so mad I couldn't keep going. I didn't. I was like
going
because it was like building up, and I was just like, oh my god, it's about to happen. Okay, I'm gonna stop. It's
I
fine,
forget where we were, but it was like early in like chapter like 40 or something, and I read what we were reading, and then I looked up and I was in like chapter 52. And I said, oops. I should stop. But
yeah, it was very difficult for me to stop this time. Usually I'm like, okay, cool. I got this amount. I got thoughts. This time I was like, I just want to keep reading, but next week.
I keep going. I keep going. But I also think it's really funny. Like, I first read Legendborn and Bloodmarked. I listened. I read with my ears in audiobook form. And there's one thing about, like, the thing I really love about audiobooks, but I also really hate about them, is when you get to these, like, moments, there are, like, pauses for chapters and stuff. I think it's harder to stop, though. Like, it's harder to, like, close the book or stop the book or whatever. I think I said this before. I was on a walk with Luna when I got to like the first memory walk chapter maybe, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, baby. I think we were already like probably should have been on our way back. You know, my girl ain't got no ligaments in her. We just go. I didn't know at the time she ain't had no ligaments. I didn't know that she was recovering from spinal surgery.
Right.
I was like, we just walking.
I feel like for me, it's harder. Like once I get past the like 85% mark, it's harder for me to stop. Once I get there, I'm like, I just want to finish now. Like just be done. So now that we're so close, I'm like, you know what? But it's fine.
I will probably finish this book every time until we finish. Which I think we have like 2 more.
Yeah, we have like 2 more.
I feel like as we've been
also wild.
Yeah, I feel like as we've been recording, there's only been like 1 episode where I was like, let me go on and read the next couple of pages after like the episodes so I can just make sure I remember the foreshadowing that's happening here for the build up of what's happening. Like that was only 1 episode I think I did that for as we've been recording.
Yeah. I reread this book
I guess like
recently, or like in the last year or so I could have I need to do that. I'm gonna do that with Bloodmark, just like reread it before we get to it, so that it's a little more fresh in my head. But I think that helped, so that I'm not, you know what I mean, so that I can just be like, okay, cool. But still,
if you don't,
I mean, I think like for me,
the
the good thing is that like I'm not going to remember anyway because ADHD and short-term memory loss. But I wish I would remember more. I always get like kind of confused about what happens when. But I think that this is probably of all of the like. Well, I will say I just I'm in the middle of a trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. Wow, that word did not come out. I'm in the middle of a trilogy, the Halfling Saga, and so A Broken Blade, I think, is the only other book in recent memory I can think of besides Legendborn. Like even Bloodmarked, where like this moment was just like, whoa, like because the reveal is so big.
Yeah.
Even like A Broken Blade, I kind of knew I kind of figured it out, but it was still very, very satisfying to have it revealed. And I didn't figure out, I got the gist of it, but I didn't get it exactly 100% right. I feel like this was like such a good reveal. And obviously I was late, so I was already kind of like creeping in on your guys' conversations and stuff. And this is what I say when I'm like, spoilers don't bother me, because I feel like if something is crafted well enough, it should still hit, because it's about the journey too, as much as it is about the reveal. And so like even if I like know for sure what it is, and I knew that there was a twist, and I probably knew that she was, but like the ways in which Tracy like unfolds and like does this, ooh, masterful. I'm hyped every time.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of standing next chapter for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of cussing out of, white dudes. So stay tuned.
Oh,
but before that,
if you, and then like, I guess we should probably like put a proclaimer, like a disclaimer at the beginning of like, if you would like to have a full episode recording of white people, but white men in particular, being held to account for their entire everything they've ever done around colonization, this is the episode. Drop it to your friends. Share. If you just want a good old rant, here you go.
Yep. But before that, let's talk about MVP and bench. Who is your MVP? I think we're unanimous. Selwyn.
It's unanimously Sel, which is really funny because I really had Bree the whole like.
Yeah, I had it for most of the time, and then I was like,
he pulls up as an eagle owl, bro.
It was giving Gandalf. It was also, another thing y'all don't really care about. It was also giving Naruto.
Is what Will said.
It was giving, it was all of those things. He just popped in at the right moment.
But it also gave Animorphs, and I don't think people understand how highly I like Animorphs is a cultural, like Sean Ashmore, Flute was a hawk. Real-tailed hawk in some of his. It's also Tobias was real-tailed hawk. But Sean Ashmore, he might have been an eagle. Anyways, it gave that whenever he shapeshifted and was like, boop, I'm here. Like, for me, that's what it gave. I was like, oh yeah, I love me a shapeshift from a bird. Like, there's something great about that. Like, Animorph remembrance. I think Bree, if anything, in this Stranger Chapters, gave fantastic final girl action. She gave very much like in the forest, trying to scramble away from the thing after she hurt herself, and like trying to like get herself back up and like get away from the attacker. So I love that for Bree. Honorable mention to Bree for that, but Sel really did shine as the winner in this this MVP contest. But I also wanted to give a shout out to Vera, because again, she really is like, Selwyn was that boy, but Vera's always going to be that girl, and her timing was impeccable, and we're going to see exactly why the timing was impeccable in the next chapter. But I want to get her as much MVP. Any ancestor that holds it down and goes through the stuff like Vera does needs all the MVP awards they can get, and so I'm trying to get them to her early and often, because she deserves her flowers. So I wanted to get her in here as well. So Selwyn, yes, deserved, but also Vera.
Benched is also, for the most part, unanimous. I almost binged Raz because he definitely just took out 3 Legendborn in a row, and I hate that for them, RIP. But I couldn't, like, it was Davis because he let all of this happen and encourage all of this to happen, and it's like, yeah, you might have awakened Arthur, but you also, look, now you've lost 3 scions, or I guess a scion and 2 squires, but like, you've lost manpower because of your greed and your, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think for me, is like, he talked so much about, like, the Legendborn's, like, rightful place, and about the vassals and how they don't respect them and how they don't know real, like, danger and whoop-de-whoop, and like doing all of this so that he could actually be king, essentially. But he has never fought in something like Camland before, so he's also, like, romanticizing it and not taking it as seriously as he should. So he's falling into the same trap that these other people have been falling into as well, only he has endangered, like, not only, like, this group of kids, but then beyond them, like, hella fucking people. And so it's
Yeah,
just
like
like,
Fitz's brother is now in danger.
But
right, like,
also,
he's gotta go.
anyone on campus that was in a range for those gates that they could not control
Right,
opening,
Yeah.
and they couldn't
right.
see because they don't have the ability to see those things happen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
any one of these, like, just innocent, well, semi-innocent people on this campus, because some of them be into
Mm-hmm.
things. Yeah, it was just a mess. And I think
It's just problematic, yeah.
and that's why I call him a dud, because he really is a dud thoroughly through and through. He's a dud as a king, failed achiever as a king, failed scion, failed regent. He's just a failure. He's a dud. He's a dull light bulb. He thinks that he's brilliant, but he's really just darkened and, like, faintly giving off light. Like, he thinks that he's fluorescent, and he's really just like a firefly level light, and it's really sad for him that he thinks that highly of himself.
I couldn't, this is the thing. I couldn't bench Raz because even though he is legitimately a baddie, he's not the bad guy, but he's a bad guy. Not a baddie is like a, the other kind. You gotta give it up to a well plotted, well acted, like, the Academy Award goes to. Like, he did that shit. Like, and made it to the end. He was very capable, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If him and Dud would have teamed up from the beginning, would have turned out differently.
Yeah.
Whereas, and he did it for a reason. Like, the hardest thing for me with Davis is just that, like, his reasoning is so lame. Like, you just want to be king. Like, you want to play dress up, or you just want this, like, kind of level of, like, you already have a lot of power, you already have a lot of influence, you are, like, head of the vassals or regents or whatever, and, like, there's a way to get the vassals in line without opening a bunch of gates and putting a bunch of people in mortal danger. Like, just be a better politician, be a better leader. You know what I mean? Like, just be better at your actual job instead of trying to, like, just relive old glories. And, like, it's giving I peaked in high school energy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that reasoning is super lame. And then to go and, like, I peaked in high school and then I'm a dance mom, like, and, like, pull your son into this, like, who is sitting here, like, trying to resist the call of quote unquote Arthur, even though Arthur ain't that baby scion, or whatever. It's just like it's just lame. Like, you did all of that for what?
For nothing.
For more power when you're already powerful, for what you assume is an influence, but you couldn't even convince your son to be on your side. You had to trick him. And then, like, when all is said and done, one, you needed to call Skip Gates before you set this whole thing in motion and like actually track these lines because y'all messed up. So you're wrong. But also, like, Nick is not going to fall in line. Like, the way in which he thinks that he's going to make Nick fall in line is like a stupid plan too. So it's just
yeah.
Raz, while awful and terrible and a demon, was competent as fuck. Ain't nobody had a clue.
Until he wasn't. And
Bree was like, oh my god, I can't hear
no, because that's why I benched Raz, because he was incompetent and he really did not know. He admitted to not knowing whose Nick Achilles' heel was until the gala. So you really thought Nick was closer to his father, having been infiltrating the order for as long as you were for Evan. You thought that Nick was close to his father. That's how I know you're not doing good infiltration. He also
because he's still a demon.
It doesn't matter.
You don't really understand.
It does not matter. He's trying to do his infiltration. A good spy is going to actually get to know his target, and he thought that Nick was close to his father. He miscalculated. He also did not realize how close Nick was to Bree until it was on display. So you're again not good at understanding your target, and then come to find out that the true dynamic he should have been on looking into was Nick and Cell, and he was off target for that as well. So I think, sure, he had a plan, he achieved it, sure. I'm always down for a good plan being well executed, but it wasn't well executed. It was just executed. And I bench him for that, and I bench him for putting Bree through additional trauma that she did not need to go through, and putting everyone else. I don't care about, honestly, I do care to an extent about everyone else in the room being traumatized. Like, I feel my heart goes out to Felicity for her, but at the same time, mostly I'm upset for Bree because it's gonna weigh on her because she thought she had taken him out, and he showed up like, you were very rude to me, like a Karen kind of situation. Like, I'm gonna talk to your manager for like how rude you were to me. And it's really just rubbing in Bree's face how she thought she was like helping to save the day, when honestly she was just making him madder, and it's probably gonna weigh on her for a prolonged period how much she could have done or should have done to better prepare or warn everyone what was coming if she had just known. Like, you know how everyone has that like survivor's guilt kind of thing, and I think for that reason, I really wanted to make a point of benching Raz, because I was like, you did not do your emotional evaluation of like how well your target responds to different stimuli well, and you also traumatized Bree needlessly, so you get benched for that.
Okay.
Word. Well, thank you all for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 54 through 56.
Wizard Team is a part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. Bye.